Hey folks, I'm Mike. Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/Inkdependence. It keeps this blog ad-free. Hello folks, welcome to Inkdependence.com. Today, you know what you're going to see. You've already seen the title card. It comes in this box. It's a pen. This pen is actually a Montegrappa Ducale Grande Emperador, which is a pretty awesome name. And this pen is awesomely huge. You can also see this is a numbered edition here on the back. This is number 45 out of 200. So let's see. You got your paper cardboard sleeve. Throw that over here. And then inside that, you have a very nice presentation box. Pretty standard box sort of action. I really like this design on the Montegrappa. I think it looks nice for a box. Put the cap over here. And then, of course, we have the really nice box. This is a step forward in box technology, if you ask me. So you can actually get out the inner box. So that's a sleeve, a cardboard box, and now sort of a, I don't know, leatherette sort of box, I suppose. A little metal medallion in the center that says Montegrappa Italia. On the bottom, nothing. Sides, nothing. It's got nice fit and finish on the box. All right, so here's what's in it. You have your typical pen pillow. Underneath that, you have a very thick instruction book. I mean, look at this guy. It's massive. It's in a bunch of languages is the deal. It's not like they have that many instructions, but lots of languages. You have a couple of Montegrappa branded cartridges, and you have the pen. So let's get this pen out of here. Pen comes in its own little Ziploc bag. It's also labeled Montegrappa Italia. They want you to know this is a Montegrappa. Montegrappa. But that's fine. You should have that on the box. Put that in there. I don't know. You could probably reuse this. Put I don't know, whatever you'd want in there to be branded Montegrappa. Let's put this over here. And then this is the pen. This is the Montegrappa Ducale Grande Emperador. And of course, this is the fountain pen version. You can see, obviously, that this is a very pretty brown sort of pen. Let's zoom in a skosh because, you want to see all the details here. So this is made of an acrylic resin, which is pretty typical of this kind of thing. It has a brass grip section that is gold plated. In this case, it is rose gold to go with the rest of the trim on this pen. So you've got brown and rose gold, which is a beautiful combination. Let's cap that up just a sec. Look at the rest of this pen. It is massive. You'll see it in comparison to a bunch of other pens later on in the video. So you'll see just how big it is, but it is actually the biggest pen that I currently have on me. This is going to go back to Montegrappa, unfortunately. Kenro was nice enough to send this out for review, so thank you very much, Carrie and the rest of the Kenro crew. I really like the stripes and such going on in here, and I also like that this is not translucent. It has a little bit... If you get it in bright enough light, you can sort of see the threads down here just a skosh where this is threaded on, but really the rest of it is pretty solid. That's something that turned me off about the Pelikan Renaissance Brown. I just didn't like being able to see the nib through the cap, and you can't see the nib through the cap on this one, and that makes me happy. I'm not sure why that bothers me. It probably doesn't bother anybody else, but it did me a little bit. Oh, look at this nice little imperfection, I suppose, but looks great. I really like this resin. So, good stuff. The clip is your typical kind of Montegrappa clip. It's got a big sweep to it, and it's also quite stiff. This is a serious clip. It does have a functional roller ball on there, though, so if you wanted to clip this to something, you could. However, given the size of this bad boy, I don't think you're going to be clipping this on too much, honestly. You'll probably want to keep this in a pen case or at your desk or some such thing. You're not going to be clipping this on jeans, I don't think. Also, with the retail price, the misrip we'll get to later, you're probably not going to put this on jeans. It does have, this is a little bit odd, this little cap down here, it's not really a finial, I guess just this end of the pen is banded by a nice rose gold band, but it's also quite a bit skinnier than the rest of the pen. And I'll show you why in a little bit, but it does look a little bit odd. It's kind of disguised by the pattern, so I guess it's not that weird, but it is odd there's this kind of step down to here. Up at the top, you have this awesome crown. I've seen this crown on a few of their designs, and I actually really like it. I know some people aren't as hot on the crown, but I'm a big fan of the crown. On the top, get that there. Make the camera focus. There we go. That gives you a good view of what it's going to be like. You get a lot of speckling in there because of the end of that acrylic rod. I think it looks very nice. It's got a slight point to it, as you can see there. In the middle, you have sort of a waistband of rose gold, both on the pen and on the cap, which is nice. I do like when caps have this band around them. It makes me think that it's going to be stronger and it's not going to crack at the threads or something like that if you happen to be somebody who really over tightens it. You have to really do some serious damage to crack this, I think. It's a very thick piece of acrylic, which I like. And a fair amount of heft in the cap because of this crown at the top, which is definitely adding a lot of weight. As I said, this is a brass section that is gold plated, and you have a rose gold plated nib. This is a number 8 nib, so a very large nib. If you're accustomed to the various Yovo makers, or rather pen makers who use Yovo or like Bach nibs, those are usually number 6s, sometimes number 5s. This is a number 8, so quite a bit larger. It's also seated fairly deeply in this section. And so it doesn't look huge. It looks like it fits this pen. So I'm glad they went number 8 on this guy, because for scale, you need that number 8. It's got pretty nice threads. They aren't sharp, I don't think. I don't hold this high up. I think I hold pretty normally. So, I think this is a very comfortable pen in the hand, even though it's massive. But it does feel comfortable. The nib, I think, is actually pretty. There we go. Look at that. That is a really pretty nib, I think. I like a nib that looks nice. If they're more than one color, I'm really down with that most of the time. But this one has some nice like scroll worky stuff going up the sides. It says Montegrappa Italia in it. It tells you that it's a medium nib. This comes in all the regular nib sizes, extra fine through broad. This happens to be the medium. And as you'll see later, it's a fairly broad medium. It writes a little bit on the dry side perhaps, but no problem at all really. Just put the appropriate ink in it. On the bottom here, you'll see the sort of typical, to me, in a typical Italian ebonite feed, it's got this sort of sweep to it. For whatever reason, that calls out to me that it's an Italian ebonite feed. I'm not sure if there's a real difference there, but that's what it seems like to me. And it's a very nice feed. It looks pretty. I like when they have this sort of bare patch up the middle, because these fins on the bottom aren't doing anything. It's the spaces on the top that you want to worry about. Inside the pen, when you open it up, you have metal threads and a metal like retainer here, sort of that sort of thing. Inside the barrel, which you might actually be able to see given how wide open it is, there's actually a sleeve that starts right about here. And I'm not sure really what the purpose of that is, but it is there. And then you have a fairly light barrel, really. So most of the weight of this pen is in the cap at the crown and in this brass section right here. This is an unscrewing sort of converter, so don't try to pull this guy straight out. You will frustrate yourself and or maybe ruin your pen. Well, probably ruin the converter because the pen is metal. But it does take a bit of unscrewing, and it's not going to come loose in the barrel, so if you're a person that hates that, get it. I think that anytime you get a screw-in converter, that's a nice touch of class. I think more places ought to be doing a screw-in converter, but it also might sort of limit the number of converters you can put in or something. I'm not sure why more people don't do it. Probably because it's more trouble. Screwing this back on or threading this back on is no problem. Very easy. Now, I said I'd tell you why this is smaller, and that is because you can post this pen. But if you do, y'all know how big my hands are. They are pretty big hands, and this is massive. So if you actually, I have to go out a bit to even get it in the frame. Look at that. If you post this guy, it is huge, and that's about as deeply as it posts. It doesn't post any deeper, really, and it adds a bunch of weight to the back of the pen. So while I suppose you could write with it that way, and I have tried to do so, it's not the most comfortable way to use this pen, if I'm honest. You probably ought to be using it unposted. It is acrylic threads against an acrylic back piece here, so you're not going to scuff it or anything. There's no metal involved, so I wouldn't worry about that. But the sheer weight of the giant crown on the back and the fact that it's such a long pen puts the fulcrum in the wrong place for this, I think. All right, so that's what this pen looks like. That's how it comes. Let's take a look at a writing sample, huh? All right, see you over there. Bye-bye. Okay, so this is a Nocco pad we're going to be doing our writing sample on. This is the pen again. Here's just a close-up of that cool brown acrylic again. So this is... Unscrew that. All right, put that aside because it's too big to post. This is the Montegrappa Ducale Grande. We're waving this around for entirely too long. Let's give it a chance to get started. All right, there we go. And this is the brown version. This also comes in black, but I think if you're going to be putting up the cash for a pen this big and impressive, I think you probably ought to go with this swirly brown instead. But that's up to individual taste. The nib on this guy is an 18 karat gold nib. And this particular one is a medium, which is on the broader side of medium. It also runs every once in a while a little bit dry. So put a wet ink in this one, you'll be happier than if you put a dry ink in it. That could be adjusted, I suppose, but I'd rather not do that with a pen that has just been sent out to me for review. So it counts on it being a little bit wider than you think it ought to be, perhaps, and maybe a little bit on the dry side straight out of the box. This also these nibs come in extra fine, fine, medium, and broad. There we go, and broad. This is, as I said, a pretty big nib. Nib. It is a number 8, actually. So if you're familiar with a lot of the other common pen nib sizes, you see a lot of number 6s out there, and you see a lot of number 5s. This one's a number 8, which is, about the size of my thumbnail or some such thing. So pretty sizable rose gold nib to go with this rose gold plated brass. Let's see, this guy is 6 inches when capped. So half a foot of pen in your hand when it's capped. Uncapped, it comes in at a little bit over 5 inches at 5 2/8. Then it is posted, which is far too long. That brings up to 7 2/8 inches. So over half a foot long if you post this guy. So pretty good sized pen, pretty good sized nib. It has no problem keeping up with fast writing once you get it going. The stall up here is probably because I've been waving it around for about 15 minutes doing various takes and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to do some quick swirlies. No problem there. And of course, it does have a little bit of softness to the nib. I wouldn't say this is a flex nib by any stretch, but you can get just a little bit of variation on it if you push on it just a little bit. But it is not a flex nib. It's just a little bit of a soft 18K nib. I generally prefer a 14 karat nib, but this 18 karat is very nice once I got an ink in there that really behaved. I forget what I put in the first time, but it just didn't really want to flow, but it was a dry ink, and so I put this one in there. This is Hippo Purple. I should probably write that here. That is Robert Oster. Hippo Purple. And this one is actually only available through Squishy Ink. So if you go to, I think it's squishy.ink or something like that, or Google up her name, you will be able to find her blog. And it is a great blog, and she also is the only person, I believe, that has this Hippo Purple ink, which is one of my favorites, actually. I don't really do purples, as you know, but this is a very brownish sort of purple that is somehow exactly the right color to be hippos. All right, let's switch our setup again just a little bit and look at it next to a whole bunch of other pens to give you an idea of the scale of this guy. All right, hold on. Okay, so here are several pens, just to give you an idea. No matter what pen you have, I hope you have something that's represented here. Over on this side, on the giant side, we have the Ducale Grande. Right next to it, the Canalea Mauna Kea, which was previously my biggest pen by just a smidge. And you can see that the Ducale Grande is about an entire finial taller than that one. Actually, it's 1 crown larger. And then next to that, you have the Pelikan M1000, which in any other case would be a pretty big sized pen. Next to that, the franklin-christoph Model 2, which I actually didn't realize was as big as the 1000, but they're almost exactly the same length. Then you have the Pelikan M800, which is another beautiful pen. This is about my perfect size for Pelikans, I think. Next to that, the Platinum 3776. This is the Nice Pure version, which is got these little matte panels in it. And then next to that is the Sailor 1911 Large. Next to that, the Venerable Parker 51. Next to that, the Lamy All-Star. And then after that, just a little pocket pen for some scale. This is the franklin-christoph 45. So let's go ahead and put that next to the Ducale Grande. And it's about half as long. So let's see if this is even posted. Yeah, posted. It's not even as long as the Ducale Grande is just capped. So, as I said, big pen. I don't want to take off all the caps and this sort of thing because, I don't know, I think you get it. But let's go ahead and take off a couple of the bigger ones. just for funsies. You see, even uncapped, it's even bigger still. So there you go. Those are the biggest ones. Let's do this one too, because why not? It's about the same. There. So there you go. There's a smattering of uncapped pens. But yeah, this is a big fat pen with a large nib. You can see there the number 6 nib next to the number 8 nib. And there is a fair amount of difference between these two. Let's go ahead and get closer, because I can. And the number 6 and number 8, if you're curious, actually generally refers to the size across the collar, which is this little bit down here. So it's going to be the diameter at the collar. So this stuff up here with the flare and the tipping and all that, inconsequential to the numbering, at least on most nibs. When you get into like pilots and that sort of thing, they do a whole different shebang. But for these, it's the width across the collar. So that's the thing to keep in mind. So while this looks not a huge amount difference or a huge amount larger, it is quite a bit wider, 2 millimeters. And then the Pelicans, I actually don't know if these even have this kind of convention at all. But the Pelican nib, I think, is a little bit bigger maybe than this one even. All right. So this has been the Montegrappa Ducale Grande Emperador. Emperador. So check this one out wherever Montegrappa pens are sold. Oh, I didn't tell you the miserap on this guy. The manufacturer's suggested retail price on this thing is $750. So this is darn near $1,000 if you want to get your hands on one of these. Although, of course, the street price is going to be a little bit lower by probably, I don't know, 20% or so. Which on a pen with this kind of miserap, that's not a small difference. But you can probably get your hands on one of these for, I don't know, around $650, give or take. So a fairly expensive pen, but also this is a statement piece of a pen and probably one that'll live on your desk instead of living in your pocket because, well, it barely fits in your hand. So there you go. Thank you very much to Kenro for sending this out for review. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Carrie, for hooking me up with this. I'm excited about the next pen that I'll have coming from Kenro. Hopefully that'll be coming soon, and I'll be able to show it to y'all in the very near future. So until then, spay and neuter your pets. Make sure that what you put out in the world makes it a better place, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.